Yo, what's up everyone? Welcome to Small World and thank you for joining me with today's video. In this episode, I'm going to show you how to make and paint a super realistic brick wall from Styrofoam. Speaking of foam, I use this pink insulation foam for making the bricks, and some of you may recognize this from last week's video where I showed you how to make a stone wall using the same stuff. So if you haven't seen that video, be sure to go and check it out, and I'll leave a link in the description below. Anyways, I typically use this pink foam because it's relatively cheap and it gets the job done. It's super easy to cut and it doesn't require a hot wire cutter, which is also a plus. And once we have the basic shape cut out, it's time to scribe our bricks. Unlike the stones, we need to keep some basic dimensions and accuracy in mind, and all of this will depend on what scale you're working in. I'm working in 1/24 scale, and I'm also replicating an older, weathered brick wall. My bricks are an 1/8 of an inch tall and 3/8 of an inch long. The dimensions aren't perfect, but they're pretty close, and we'll be altering the shapes of the bricks later, which will also change their size. One thing to keep in mind is that the overall size of your wall needs to be divisible by the dimensions of your bricks. Otherwise, you'll end up with some weirdly shaped bricks on the edges. For example, my wall is 3 3/8 of an inch long and 1 3/4 of an inch tall, or 9 bricks long by 14 bricks tall. Make sure when you're scribing your vertical lines that you stagger the bricks to make the appropriate pattern. I place a mark about halfway between the bricks from the previous row. Once the bricks are scribed into the surface, I use a mechanical pencil to widen the gaps between the bricks. While doing this, I also use the pencil to round off sharp corners of the bricks. This gives them a more worn, natural quality, which I find looks very realistic. To add some more dimension to the surface of the bricks, I use a ball of aluminum foil to stamp a nice rough texture into them. For more irregularities and interest, I go back and I'll remove a brick or a half brick here and there. Also, I use the back of a paintbrush to push in some of the bricks. This really helps to add even more variety and contrast to our texture. The aluminum foil stamping kind of smushes the bricks together, so I go back and re-widen some of the gaps between the bricks. And now we're ready for paint. I base coat the bricks using a light burnt umber acrylic paint. As you can see, I cover all of the bricks with paint, but I'm not being too careful to make sure that the coat of paint is super even. The slight patchiness in the base coat will help add some interest to the final result. I fill the mortar lines using some spackle that I apply over the entire surface, and then I wipe off the excess using a paper towel. Some recommend protecting the painted bricks with a clear varnish before this step, but I find that it's not necessary for me as long as the base coat is completely dry. Next, I add some more color variety by picking out individual bricks with different colors, some darker, some more brown, and some more red. The colors you choose will depend on the type of brick you're trying to replicate, so I find that having a reference photo really comes in handy for making those decisions. At this point, the wall looks way too vibrant for my taste, so I tone it down with some weathering. First, I apply a highly diluted wash of Vallejo buff to the entire surface, as well as a wash of black paint in selected areas. Next, I add a very light dry brush of raw sienna mixed with white to the entire wall. This really helps to desaturate the bricks and adds a sense of realism and unity to the wall. Just make sure not to go too heavy with this step, as it's super easy to overdo the effect. Lastly, I bring out some more dark tones using the black wash again. And with that, the bricks are done. I hope you learned something and that you found this video useful. Check out some other bricks I made using the same techniques but using different colors. Also, a big shout out to my patrons. Thank you so much for all of your support. If you'd like to join them and help me out on Patreon, I offer tons of exclusive content such as 3D models, early access videos, process pictures between videos, and much more. Well anyways, thank you for watching and I hope to see you in the next video. Also, here are some bloopers. But I'm not being too careful to make sure that the coat of paint is super even. Whoa. Some recommend protecting the painted bricks with a clear varnish before this step, but I find that it's not necessary.